Okay, students, so this is our second lecture about memory, and this is all about memory tricks. So before we get started here, I want you to pause this video and I want you to see if you can remember what the brain needs. What are the things that the brain needs? Pause the video, recite it out loud, and use your gestures. When you're ready, come back and we'll start talking about memory tricks. Okay, so four different memory tricks that we are going to be discussing today are acronyms, acrostics, mental and physical pictures, and similar sound cues. So these are just a few memory tricks. Um, and so you are going to want to kind of participate along. This is definitely a lecture where you're going to want to write things down, come up with your own ideas when I tell you to, because if you're not practicing these tricks, you're not putting them into practice, this is not going to do anything for you. You really need to practice these before you apply them to your classes. Okay, so the first trick that we are going to look at is acronyms. You guys have probably heard of acronyms before. These are words that are created using the first letter of a phrase or a set of words. So in excuse me, in Learn 11, we use two different acronyms: SMART for goal setting and SLANT for listening. You may have also heard of the acronym PEMDAS, which is the order of operations for math, right? Can you recite these phrases from each of these different types of classes? Like, do you know what SMART stands for? Do you know what SLANT stands for? Do you know what PEMDAS slam stands for? Maybe it's been a while since you have reviewed PEMDAS, or maybe it's second nature to you. But we use acronyms all the time. Okay, so here we have a picture of the Great Lakes. Okay, so here is an acronym that you could potentially use if you needed to remember the names of the Great Lakes. You could use the acronyms HOMES. Okay, Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior. Easy enough, right? All we remember the word, we know the word home, right? Just add an S onto it. Um, and it'll be a lot easier for you to remember um, the different Great Lakes. Okay. Now, here is another set of words um, that you could come up with an acronym for. Okay, so let's look at these words and let's see what they start with, right? So we have external abdominal oblique, that starts with an E. Okay, we have transversus abdominis, that starts with a T. We have rectus abdominis, which starts with an R, and then we have internal abdominal oblique, which starts with an I. Okay, so how could you arrange these letters ETRI um, into a word that you are going to recognize, into an acronym? Okay, maybe you're going to use tire, right? Um, because, sometimes that's how we refer to, our midsection, okay, is the tire, right? Some people do that. Maybe you've not heard that before, but some people will call it that. Maybe you can come up with something else like right, RITE, right? There are lots of different acronyms that you can come up with, whatever is going to help you best remember these words. Okay. The next is acrostics. And these are often confused with acronyms, where we take a a phrase or a group of words and we make them into one word. For an acrostic, you're making up an entire sentence using the first letter of each word. Okay. Um, so for this example, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That's the same as our acronym PEMDAS, right? Do you guys know this one? Every good boy does fine. That has to do with music notes, right? Maybe those of you who are musically inclined um, might remember learning this sort of acrostic or a sentence to help you remember the order of the notes. Okay. Or you could do this one, even better to remember it because it's ridiculous. Even good boys do fart, which is funny. It's okay to laugh at that, right? But it's going to help you remember it because it is funny. Okay. So now what I want you guys to do is take a look at our planets here. Poor Pluto is no longer a planet. Let's take a look at our 8 planets. And I want you guys to come up with um an acrostic to help you remember the order of the planets, right? We want to do it in this specific order. Um, so I want you guys to pause this video and I want you to write down somewhere in your notes an acrostic that a sentence that could work to help you remember the order of the planets. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video and write it down. Okay, so maybe you've heard this one before. My very educated mother just served us nachos. Hmm. That could help you remember the order of the planets, right? You repeat that over and over again. It's kind of a ridiculous sentence. Does it make any sense? No. What does the nachos have to do with being educated, right? But because it's so ridiculous, you're more likely to remember it. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys came up with for your own acrostic. Okay. Now let's practice this one. Come up with an acrostic to help you remember um, the bones in your arm. Okay. So you have C, S, H, E, R, U, W, and T. Okay. So again, you're going to pause the video and you're going to go ahead and you're going to come up with an acrostic for the bones in the arm. Okay. And again, I would love to hear what you guys come up with for your acrostic. Okay. All right. Next, what I want you guys to do is create some mental pictures. Okay, so go ahead and close your eyes, and I want you to picture an elephant. What does it look like? When you see an elephant, what are you picturing? Okay, probably something like this. You've seen an elephant before, maybe not in person, but maybe on television or something in a book, in a textbook, something like that, right? You know what an elephant looks like. You guys just created a mental picture. Okay. What do you think the texture is? What are the different colors, right? What's the size of the elephant? Okay. Maybe what's the smell, even? You can associate, all the five senses into your mental pictures. Okay. So here are 5 qualities of good mental pictures. Okay. Um, and we have an acronym to help us remember good mental pictures. Okay, so it needs to be S, stupid. The weirder the picture, the better, right? Maybe in that picture of the elephant, you imagined some sort of cartoon elephant, or maybe you pictured Disney's Dumbo. Right? Not that those things are stupid, but they're just different than real life, right? Um, Next, P, play on words, right? So when you are picturing something in your head, and maybe even you're coming up with a story um, to help you remember something, and you're creating a mental picture for it, you're going to use hen instead of when, right? And you can picture a hen. That's going to help you remember the word when. Okay. Your mental pictures should have action because that is going to draw your attention to it. Okay. Make sure your mental pictures are clear. They should be vivid. They should be colorful, right? I mentioned the five senses. You should be incorporating the five senses into your mental pictures. Okay. And easy to see. Okay. They should be three-dimensional, not confusing, right? They need to be something that is going to stick in your brain. You need to make those associations and you need to personalize it for something that you're going to remember. Okay. Um, So those are some memory tricks for you guys to help you maybe as you're preparing for quiz number 3, right? You guys are going to be taking a quiz next week. You need to create a study guide for that. So you can use some of these tricks to help you. Okay. Um, and you can also use sound cues as well, right? And when we say right when for when, or um, you're replacing a word with a word that starts with the same letter, right? That's a sound cue, or something that sounds like that word. That's a sound cue, right? So you can use that as well in order to kind of trick your memory, right? And into remembering what you need to remember and recalling it for later. Okay. So try this week as you guys are studying for quiz number 3, but also see if you can use some of these tricks for any of your other classes this week. And I'd love to hear how they end up turning out.